Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are hearing from a doctor of clinical psychology who has run a thriving practice while raising her young daughter and competing. She earned her pro card with a first place finish at NPC TCM Nationals and received 2 fourth place finishes 24 hours later at her pro debut in the IFBB Pittsburgh Pro Masters Championships. Her success in Pittsburgh took place only 13 months after her very first bikini competition. And this is a goal that she decided to pursue with her husband, who's also an IFBB pro and doctor. And they did this in celebration of their 40th birthdays, which is just so cool. And even though her road to pro was quick, she found bodybuilding to be her passion, especially through life's challenges. So I'm so excited to get into this conversation. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jacqueline Duke. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you, Celeste.
Yes, of course. I really respect you for what you do and what you've accomplished. And I'm excited to just bring that to the table for everybody to hear. But of course, before we do that, I got to know if there's anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage.
Yes. So I think about the judges themselves. Typically it's Sandy smiling in the middle. And I tell myself, these judges, they want to see the next winner. They want to see someone do really well. They want to see an amazing physique for an amazing show. So instead of, thinking of the negative that they're going to pick you apart, you're going out there to do it for people that like you, that are rooting for you, that want you to win. And I think that just, helps me to carry myself with confidence and have fun with it at the same time.
I have not heard that perspective. I love that. I might have to steal that. They want to see the next winner. What a great line to really get you ready to just let go and be that and show up that way.
Well, they look so eager too. I mean, they really do. And great competition and great physiques makes for a great show, right? So they're rooting for you.
Yeah, so true. Well, let's talk about your journey to earning your pro card. You started with your husband. You're both very athletic. You decided to compete together. But before competing, what were you doing for your health and fitness? And then how did you get to decide, okay, let's step on stage?
I was just regularly active, gym, dance class, weights class, things here and there, playing paddle, jumping into whatever sport. But really this kind of came on a total whim. We were sitting outside of my daughter's ballet class, kind of scrolling, and we're like, what do you want to do for your 40th birthday? And it was just an idea we had, and not knowing at all what we didn't know, right? what it would totally encompass our life. And it was something that was both in the back of our minds, and something that we could start and pursue together, because with our work schedules and parenting and our sports schedules, him doing golf, whatnot, it was opposite times of day, opposite days of the week. And we wanted something to really do and grow together, to help us grow together as a couple that was around health.
I like that. How did your life change when you started competing? Like what had to shift or maybe how did it begin to encompass your life?
Well, it started off very well. It started off working as that kind of fun hobby we had chosen to do. And it almost stopped before it started, because we started in January of 2020. And so with the shutdown, my first prep, the majority of it was in our home gym, as was his. So it escalated quite quickly. The shutdown and the year of 2020 really took a toll on our family, on our businesses, I think in a different way than it did for many. And I was able to find a way to use bodybuilding and my why and my passion for it and my meaning for doing it to kind of fuel myself to keep going, to motivate myself, to give myself a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, and ultimately a sense of stability.
Beautiful. I mean, really, I talked to some friends about competing in this way, and a lot of us come to the conclusion that it adds so much structure to your life. It's like, if anything else is not structured, at least you have bodybuilding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially during a time when all the days seem to run together, and to have something that a child really needs structure. So to wake up at the same time, eat at the same time, have goals of the day, have goals of the week, things like that. I think it was a great example for her too, to really give her some solid ground to stand on when we weren't sure what was going to happen.
Yeah, let's talk about your daughter and how you managed prep and raising her.
So although we had so much fun doing shows at the same time, most of them were together last year. We have agreed for 2022, we will not be doing the same shows in order to not overlap prep, because she can't have two parents lying on the floor time struggling to hold a Barbie. So it was a challenge, but it was also we could empathize with each other and support each other, and completely revolve our life around it, our home around it, to help each other succeed, to set each other up for success, which I think is why we both found success at the same time, when you have such a supportive partner doing the exact same thing. But as being parents, it gets in the way of everything. I mean, just even today, I'm hesitant to turn my phone off. I got her professional Halloween makeup, and she had an allergic reaction to it.
Oh no!
She's a little red tomato in her face. But things always come up, and especially with children, it affects your sleep. You can't count on sleep. And usually, the hardest part of my day is first thing in the morning, and then after school to bedtime. Work is the easy part. My patients don't believe me, but that is where I kind of go. It's my escape to relax. My hardest part of the day by far is being a parent.
Wow. Well, I think too, probably because or maybe I'm making an assumption, but with what you've studied, you've likely understood and know how important childhood development is. And I'm wondering if knowing that has influenced your parenting style, or how you perceive your role, or maybe your success as a parent.
Maybe it's so hard because I've been in the field of psychology for so long. It's really hard to tell where Jacqueline ends and psychology begins. So integrated into my life. So in raising her, I think I guess knowing, that she needs structure, and then being mindful of the healthy habits and leading by example, and that they're just little sponges, and that they're watching every single thing that you do. And they're not listening to what you say. They don't listen. They watch, they see, and they emulate. So, leading a healthy lifestyle and leading by example, and making my own time and my own success, and then quality bonding with her, is the best thing that we can do. But also, I think in last year, why I was so panicked too, as we know, those critical periods of development, I wanted her to have the most normal childhood possible, right? So right after my first competition, I rented an apartment in Wisconsin, just an hour away over the border, so that she could go to camp and be around other children, because everything was shut down, and I would just commute home on the weekends with her.
That's amazing.
She ended up having probably the best summer ever, right?
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that you did that. And I really appreciate that you said it's difficult for you to maybe understand where Jacqueline begins and psychology ends, and really understanding that there is just such a deep integration. Because what I found just in most of my daily thoughts are revolving around my work and what I do. It doesn't actually ever end. And I've always wondered how or if, because as you know, like we're taught, oh, leave work at home. And I'm like, does anybody do that? Like, how do you actually do that? So have you been successful in leaving work at home? Or maybe what have you done to help you with that?
To leave work at home.
Or I'm sorry, leave
work in terms
you know
of
what I mean. Yeah.
So, I think graduate school, they train you very well for it. I did a very intensive clinical program where, for the 6 years before the actual diploma, you had 5 years of almost full-time work, whether that be in a hospital setting, community mental health setting, therapeutic day school setting. And you see what it feels like to be so mentally exhausted, and you get practice in setting boundaries under supervision there. So I think I was trained very well in terms of that. But you're right, I do, especially with my therapy cases, if they're quite complex or I feel like a session wasn't as productive, I'll mull it over in my mind. And a lot of times I do come up with great hypotheses or things to introduce into our sessions while I'm doing my makeup, or just kind of sitting in silence. Things do come to me with different associations. But in terms of setting boundaries, it's something that always takes effort, because human nature is to push boundaries, whether that be with children or adults, right? So to just continue the boundary setting with other people and with myself, which is something I am constantly working on. Bodybuilding actually helped with that as well. So I think I noticed it with having my daughter. I had a very, very hard time separating from her, or setting a boundary of, I'm going to take a shower now, or I had a hard time leaving, or really I would make excuses for exercising, or feel guilty for exercising. That was kind of one of the only things I would leave to do. And for this, it almost, now I have a reason, now I have this concrete goal, and I have to meet my coach, and I have to train, and I have to set aside time for meal prep. So it really helped me to set that boundary. And the more success that I achieved, the more, real it became. At first it might have not meant something, well, I have to turn down this social obligation for my prep. But now, I think other people get it now. This is no joke. And I will set boundaries and sacrifice whatever I need to do what it takes to win.
That's amazing. I really, really like that perspective, and how you can see how much bodybuilding had a positive influence on your life and your ability to set boundaries, not just for yourself, but with others.
Yes, absolutely.
So what does a normal day look like for you?
It starts very, very early. Although I am blessed to be on team no cardio. I'm one of those rare ones.
Wow, that's nice.
At least up to this point, I do get to eat a lot. I do. So I typically wake up around 4 and between 4 and 5, and I get a lot of my writing done or my work done in those wee hours of the morning, just on my computer before everyone else wakes up. So because around 5:45, there's my daughter, bing, happy out of bed, and the morning rush begins, to get everyone dressed and off to school, and meals packed and everything else. And I train usually right after I drop her off at school. And then I do work out in like full hair and makeup, because I go either straight to work or straight on Zoom now for, virtual therapy, like that late morning, early afternoon type of stuff. And then I'll try to do, whatever needs to be done for, errands for the home, or housework. I do a lot of housework, lots of housework. So more of the physical stuff to wake me up before I get her from school. And then we usually have dinner most nights as a family, really. And then do a little, whether it be piano practice or dancing together before I put her to bed. And then I go to bed shortly after her, sadly.
Wow.
I get enough sleep, but we do get about an hour alone time after we put her to bed. So yeah, early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So you're clearly busy, but it sounds like you have your schedule down pat, like you know what to expect from most of your days. But when 2020 came, you said that this had a big impact on your family and your businesses. So can you talk to us about what was going on and what types of changes to your career or life that induced?
Sure. So, I think when I was in graduate school, as long as it was, I was told you will never, don't be in school for one of those people who thinks they're going to open a private practice in a rich area and expect cash pay, and thrive in it. And that kind of made me want to do exactly that.
Totally.
I did. So, about 9 years ago, I opened my private practice here in the North Shore of Chicago and took cash pay only, raised my prices, and had a thriving therapy practice. And then, although that was most of the time in my career, the more lucrative part was the psych testing and the neuropsych assessments I was doing for children. So I'm an autism specialist, but I would be hired by either privately or by school districts to come in and evaluate with behavioral observations and psychological assessments to determine an appropriate special education placement or changes to the special education curriculum or design or wherever that child was placed. So this was school district paid money, right, as an independent consultant. Well, that's not happening. And it's not happening now because school districts can't even get it together for their gen ed programs, right? So the last thing on their minds is how to fine tune a special education program. So the testing portion of my practice is just completely shot. The therapy portion, although I went back right away, even though it maybe was not allowed, many people were still very fearful. So my clientele shifted. I had most all high school and college, which is nice. My college that have stayed with me, it's nice to have Zoom now. I think at first it was difficult to make connections over Zoom or virtually, because I truly believe in the soul of psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, and that human connection requires so much from face to face. There's healing just in them showing up, just in them making the effort to show up to be there. So my fire for psychology kind of dimmed when I felt it was watered down when it became virtual. I wasn't as excited about it anymore. I'm not sure if I was taking a break. I wasn't interested in pursuing prescriptive authority anymore. I'd started that process. I really just, wanted to kind of wait and see what would happen in my field. So far, it's still quite more virtual than I would like to see. So this came at a perfect time where I could immerse myself in something else until my field gets it together. So that was my business, and I realized the overhead just wasn't worth it. So I really focused on this full time. I think juggling all the changes with my daughter's schooling was a full-time job. And then now, ultimately we hit a wall in May and we said we're moving. So wow. I'm so excited to announce we bought a house last month in Florida. So
wow, congrats.
Thank you so much.
That's amazing.
So my husband's in the process of selling his clinic and transitioning another doctor in. And we're letting my daughter finish out her school year. And so I'm flying out in a couple of weeks to get her registered at her next school. And it's going to be a real fresh start. Not one that was asked for, but now the more and more I think about it, it happened for a reason, right? You only get one life. Yes. And I'm not going to sit around anymore and wait to see what they're going to do to us next. So
yes.
we are taking full control and doing what's best for our daughter to grow up, and putting ourselves in a place where we can both work in our professions and give back to the community in that way. So yeah, it's a lot to manage with my brain's kind of in two cities at one time, but
yeah,
it'll be good, right?
oh, of
It'll be
course.
okay.
Yes, I respect that so much. I think it's awesome that your family's doing that. Like, it's unfortunate that there are so many, how do I go about this without being too, well, I'm just going to say it. There's so many states that are controlling their people,
Yeah.
and Florida's not one of them. So I think you'll find it's awesome out there. Probably, like, I moved from California to Arizona, and yes, and it's for my internship actually, but I'm so happy. And there were some states that I was like, I would absolutely never apply there. I was like, I'm not working in California, absolutely not. But it's like, you deserve to have the life that you want, be able to do what you want to do. So I think it's great that you are moving somewhere that's going to let you do that. I'm curious though, how that's going to impact, like, are some of your clients in person sad, or are you able to still service them with your, like, virtual? Is that something you want to do?
It's been a slow transition, and so I can service them as long as I keep my Illinois license active. So it'll trickle off, as it has, in every job that I've left. The transitions are hard. Selfishly, I'm more concerned about how it might mess up my contest season next year.
Hilarious.
Because the goal really is to get in at least one spring show before the big move, and there might be a little interruption, and then really get back into it in fall. So spring and fall with a break in summer to move. And then my husband has an even more complicated timeline with taking the licensing exam for chiropractic in Florida to get his license transferred.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a lot of moving parts, but it sounds like you guys are, like, really happy or excited about this.
Yes, I've never heard of anyone moving to Arizona or Tennessee or Florida and saying, wow, that was a really bad decision.
No, I've not heard that until things sometimes go south, because well, never mind. Yes. So, okay, good. Well, I want to ask you what population you serve primarily. And I know you do, and you have done lots of testing and assessments. I think that's awesome. I love that you contributed so much to students in need as well. But what would you say is your main population, or some of your specialties that you like to service?
So for the testing, as I mentioned earlier, I specialized in autism. My postdoctoral year was at a therapeutic day school for verbal children on the spectrum, ages 6 to 21. And there, I think, living and breathing with them 5 days a week, really got a feel for what is spectrum behavior and what is not, and what are the skills that these individuals need to learn to thrive in the world, that being communication skills, sensory management, and social skills, which I think is why some of the restrictions here are really, really getting to me, because my interventions surrounded a lot of reading of nonverbal behavior, reading of facial expressions, the way humans connect through faces and body language, and things of that has been literally covered, right? So my heart really hurts for those that struggled with that skill to begin with. I can't even imagine what they're going through now, falling a year and a half behind of that area of development, because that's what I would teach. Kind of anticipating someone's intention based on their facial expression or body language, or the intonation of their voice, right?
Yes.
So that was my specialty with children. And then I had a lot of just very high functioning adults, relationship problems. I was involved in a community, which is not a clinical term, but Exaholics, was an online community for people having difficulty letting go of their exes. And so I would, help write for them, and they helped me get some national television spots. So, and I would speak on that and on other topics as well. But then, now I have really depression, anxiety, OCD, or just kind of everyone could use a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So more of the young adult population, I think that generation, that age group of we'll say 16 to 30 the stigma is removed. Whereas for my generation, when I was college age, there was quite a stigma on seeing a therapist. It wasn't something you made public. Whereas now they appreciate the privilege and the accessibility to be able to get mental health help when they want it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. Like there's been such a shift over the years where people now, I think in some ways it could be strange. Like, oh yeah, like I'm seeing my therapist. Do you have a therapist? Like, you need a therapist? Like, I think that's a bit excessive, but I do agree. Like, at least it's being spoken about. It's not as stigmatized. I think, I heard this one of my professors said this and it really stuck to me. And he said, everyone needs a therapist, like they need a doctor or a dentist, like even if it's just for a checkup every 6 months or 12 months, as they get through their treatment, it's just helpful to have someone you can check in with. And I was like, wow, I really, really love that perspective.
Yes. That's what I tell my clients when they first start with me. If they present a goal and a lot of times meet their goal quite quickly, I say that doesn't mean you have to keep coming. Back when I thought I would live here in my so-called forever home that I created, right?
Yeah.
Deep roots here. I had said, I'm not going anywhere. And I've had clients continue with me for the whole 9 years. I've had them fade away. I've had, it's always wonderful to come back 5 years later, and it takes one session to really catch up and you don't miss a beat. So I love being that person for them. So, keeping both licenses active, hopefully I can do that for some individuals as well. Cause you're right. It's great. You need one. And when you have a problem, you can consistently work on that goal with them. And then if not, you still have that connection. You don't have to start all over again with your story and the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah, definitely. You brought up a lot of really good points, and I want to get into your brain a bit more. It's certainly no small feat to become a doctor of clinical psychology, and anybody wondering what that looks like, I mean, just look at any program of what it requires. It could be like, holy crap. So I wanted to know first of all, what inspired you to go for your doctorate in this field? And then I wanted to know what your dissertation was on.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to ask that. It crossed my mind today when I was thinking. Okay. So what made me go into the field? So I was an engineer at University of Michigan for undergrad, thinking that it would be like my father's profession, which was industrial design. Well, it was that without any of the fun parts. I said I did not want to be an engineer. And they said, just finish. So I finished undergrad early at age 20 with a degree in psychology, never thinking that I would use it. I just enjoyed the classes. So then I went off to California. I did some marketing, sales, and web design back when websites got paid a lot. And this was just before September 11th. So terrible job market. And then I wanted to move home, and I knew I wanted to do something with people. I found that my favorite parts of my job were really that face-to-face interaction with people and helping people, and even little ones, children. So my parents agreed. They said, if you come back home, we'll help you with graduate school. So I started, thinking I might go all the way, but started with a master's, knowing that I could do something with it in that area. I specialized in substance abuse counseling, and then just kept going, kind of like this bodybuilding journey that escalated quickly. So then I continued on and did all my testing rotations, and finished my doctorate ultimately in clinical psychology, and then the rest, So my dissertation, it was about Facebook. So if we could go back to when I proposed my idea for my dissertation, which was 2008, I couldn't get any professors to be on my committee because they told me Facebook is a phase, it's going to go away, and we don't want to be a part of a pop psych dissertation. Well, I did find chairs outside of my institution, and I did write my dissertation on personality impressions based on online profiles and if they're accurate or not using the Big Five. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. By the time it was published, I think the movie was already out. So I hope all those professors that turned me down and
look at me now.
No, not a phase. I said, no, it is not going away. It is the next thing.
That is so cool. So may I ask what you found or what you discovered?
It was mixed because my program was much more heavy with the practitioner side versus the research side. Our dissertations weren't pressured to find results. So
Got it.
I think for the traits, some traits like conscientiousness, those could be told. And of course, Facebook had almost a different format back then. MySpace had just kind of phased out after that. But then other traits like extroversion and introversion were just totally off. They were very inaccurate.
I could see that for sure. I mean, if you're always posting online, how can you know if someone is introverted or extroverted?
Definitely. I mean, I'm sure we've met people, or you've met people at interviews or people at competitions where you followed them and they seem so confident and then they're just so humble and timid or shy.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I'm very extroverted when it comes to doing these types of things and speaking and all of that. I love that. But I'm not the first person to speak up in a group. I don't like doing a lot of social things like that unless it's with people I'm close with. If I'm getting to know people, I rarely am gonna just share a random story. Whereas my boyfriend's like, no, you just have to say something, and like then people will engage. And I'm like, this is not happening. This is giving me extreme. Like I want to get out of here. But people would not know that, from like the work that I do. But it's easy. I think you don't know everything about people. And I love that idea of what you studied. And I think it's so cool because those Big Five personality traits have such a big impact in how we show up in the world. And I was curious, like what you had maybe hypothesized before going into it.
I think I had hypothesized that in general, it would be more accurate than what I had actually found.
Wow.
Because there were similar studies of people going into someone's workspace or bedroom and studying that. Where, I think you can notice little details of rooms and because neuroticism is a trait on the Big Five, yes. Right? And I'm sure our bodybuilding community is very high on both conscientiousness and neuroticism.
I literally said that on Adam Bonilla's podcast and people are like, how dare you? And I'm like, no, like
that's what it takes to succeed in this. Right?
Thank you.
Also openness to experience, right? Because
exactly.
Like, how did this cross my mind? Oh, hey, let's just do a prep and get on stage on a whim, right? And turn 40. There you go.
That's awesome.
Something new every day.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's so cool. And I hope that I'm not being too selfish with your time. I'm like asking so many side questions because it's just so interesting. And I'm sure like our listeners will love it because they always say they love this stuff. But one of the things that I've thought about when you said the room study, I literally have a list of dissertation ideas on my phone. And one of the things that I've always wanted to, if I were to pursue it, and I don't even know that it would be approved, would be like political identity and how that relates to the big five personality traits.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And like also like how that relates to self-responsibility, if not political identity, because that may be hard to get people behind, but at least self-responsibility and the big five traits. But I think that it'd be interesting. So it's actually encouraging to hear that you did get some people on board, because I've been told not to choose things that you want to know or learn about. And I'm like, why?
How else are you going to sit in a dark room and write about it for hours on end?
Exactly. Yeah, that's like one of my non-bodybuilding related dissertation ideas. But anyway, let's talk about the contributions you're most proud of. And then we'll get more into your bodybuilding stuff, because there's a lot I want to know.
Okay. Contributions. So as far as just through my practice or, practicing itself is the most rewarding, I think, seeing people succeed. So that's something that happens behind closed doors that I don't really get to talk about, little wins, seeing people evolve, seeing people grow. Things like that. It's always nice when years later, I'll get they'll find me on Instagram or something and give me a thank you. And I changed their life, when really I thought I just, helped them solve a simple problem. So that's always the deepest rewarding. And now being a parent, knowing what that means to a parent when they say that I've helped their child, I know that means even more. So that I would definitely say I'm the most proud of. But outside of that, in taking risks and doing things that scared me, but was a part of the movement to get prescriptive authority rights in the state of Illinois. So being a part of the Illinois Psychological Association and getting on multiple news channels, scared the life out of me, but looking back, it was really fun. Everything from, Al Jazeera, very serious, to Fox News, to Windy City Live, which is much more playful and kind of the more fun TV spots. And then that led into just contributing a lot to online and print magazines and just offering my opinion, which sometimes words get twisted, journalism, right? But that was fun. And then I'm also on the advisory committee for several nonprofits. One is a scholarship foundation that offers college scholarships to individuals who they'd be the first people to attend college and their families. And then also the Institute of Therapy of the Arts. They used to be a part of the Music Institute, and now they're their own entity, and they do all arts therapies, so drama therapy, music, things of that. And then what other? I know, I have to pull up my website and look at my nonprofit.
Get that curriculum vitae, your little resume.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think you've made so many contributions, and I asked because I really wanted you to be able to highlight that. I got to watch some of your videos and your interviews, and I thought that they were, they were good. They were awesome. And I just think it's so cool how active you are in it. And obviously, now you have other passions too, including bodybuilding. And you had mentioned before that it was, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it was like a fast, accelerated process. Like you really went for it all in. So when did you know you loved competing and wanted to become a pro?
Probably my first show, and having that success. I think I knew I wanted to go to nationals at the time. People had always talked about, especially the Pittsburgh shows and how fun they were. You just, even if you don't think you're ready, you have to go. But I really shifted after I had success in my first show and qualified, as did my husband. And then I did a proper off season, which we could talk about that. I'm in one right now, right?
Yeah.
I did a proper off season, and it was kind of January, February, March, where I saw just an amazing transformation after getting extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And to the point where by May, I would get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and like not even like I could not even believe the physique in the mirror was mine. Are you kidding me? I did this. And it was a very rewarding feeling. So when that was happening, you know, I think around January of 2021, and my husband has the same ambitious personality. You know, we're doing this all the way. We, you know, we're there to win. You know, that's why we're showing up. And it makes it easier. I think mental stress is added when there's a choice. You know, do I eat this? Do I cheat on that? Do I skip this? But for me, there wasn't a choice. There was not one day skipped of training. There was not one cheat, unless it was, you know, planned for. For me, that's just easier to know that it's just not an option. And if you just follow the plan and you trust in your coach, that great things are going to happen. And it takes a lot of blind trust, but it clearly works for both of us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it paid off for you. So can you talk to us about that proper off season? What does that mean? What did that look like?
Yes. So the, you know, I guess just carrying more weight than I was used to, you know, even before bodybuilding. I had seen my body go through incredible transformation, right, with pregnancy. So I knew it was capable of bouncing back, right? But it's frightening to be intentionally putting on so much weight and growing out of your clothes. And but your coach is like, you look great. And I said, how can you tell the difference between muscle? I can't, it's all just masked. But you know, he has such an eye for it that you just have to, okay, you know what you're looking for. So, and you know, sure enough, it did work. So I think that made it easier going into this off season. I'm not gonna say it's easy going through the same thing again. At least it's one more Chicago winter, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the worst thing I can do is come back after my pro debut next year looking exactly the same as I did, even though I did well. You know, I'm going to come back with an amazingly strong physique that I'm going to be proud of. And so my off season, I'm pretty strict in my off season. I follow a meal plan as well. I train just as hard, not harder. Really no breaks. So
yeah. And obviously if you enjoy it, it makes it easier to do those things.
Yes, enjoy it. I have a lot of faith. And I'm not a macros girl. I do meal plans. It is one less thing for me to plan. I have to plan my daughter's dinners and lunches and breakfasts and family calendar and houses. So if just put it on paper what I need to eat, and I will just do that.
Yeah.
And hit repeat. And that's just one mental load off of me. Plug and chug. So the last thing I want to be doing is like entering things in my phone to figure out what I'm eating. So it's just, I find it much easier for my lifestyle because there's just so much else going on. And it's foods that I like. So it's not like I'm feeling deprived at all.
That's great. No, I think it's awesome. And recognizing the benefit of whatever plan that we follow, it's so important to keep in us feeling like, one, not deprived, and two, actually really connected to the process. And I think some people miss out on that, like maybe wanting what you don't have rather than just celebrating what you do have in the process that you are experiencing. And this applies to our off seasons as well. It can be difficult to see our body shape change over time, but like you said, that long-term vision, if you can hold that close of like, okay, I'm going to come back so much better, then it does keep you moving forward and at least more accepting of those changes.
Yes. And I mean, it's good food. It's nutritious food. It sets a great example, you know, for my daughter. Food is fuel. We make healthy choices. She loves learning about all the different vitamins, and how the human body works, and really just what a miracle it is. You know, I think it's part chiropractic philosophy, but really the body knows best. And if we can, the more in tune we can be with our own bodies, the healthier we're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned your coach a few times and how he really has an eye for things. You've been working with him for a while. So how did you find him and what keeps you working with him?
So I found him on a kind of a fluke too. So gyms were not open here, but as our businesses, I'm like, there has to be some businesses out there that are open. So I kind of, through the underground found a gym that was close by and said, I'm at the end of a prep. I've really lost a lot of muscle in my lower body. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I'm sure I told you that. So it's hard. My legs just want to thin out, and it's hard to build them properly without really putting strain on the knees. So that was kind of a focus of mine. So started with him, and then he helped me with the photo shoot, and then I just, I was sold. And my husband was too. So it started out as convenience, and man, we hit the jackpot finding
awesome.
him, because he, really gives the one-on-one attention, just incredible. And he has an eye for it. He's a judge himself. So just the attention to detail matches my neurotic level.
Yeah, that's so nice. It also takes some of that maybe fixation on the negatives or the critical things and puts it on someone else's shoulders.
Yes.
Lets you use the positive sides of neuroticism instead of the negative ones.
Yes.
I love that. And I think you had mentioned that he is also doing his own show or competition. He's promoting one.
So he just got his own show, and it is the Mid-American Winter Classic, and it's going to be December 3rd of 2022.
Wow.
It's a national qualifier.
Oh.
So it's been exciting hearing his process of being able to get the show, and now, just making it the best and really special for competitors, and drawing a good competitive base in Illinois in December, right?
Is it NPC and IFBB or just NPC?
It's just NPC as a national qualifier. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good for him. And you have definitely done well with him, and on your own as well, obviously, because it's a team effort. But when you were on your journey to becoming a pro, you had a really high placing streak. I mean, never placing, I don't believe ever placing out of the top 5, maybe at a national show, but I don't even know about that. So yeah, you've done really well. So what do you think contributed to that?
No, I've never placed below. Oh, I see. Yes. When I went open, I was 4th at a regional when I won the overall Masters 35 and Masters 40. And then at nationals, I've never placed below 2nd.
That's amazing.
Thank you. But for Masters, they only give the pro card to just the first place, not 1st and 2nd. So what do I attribute that to? Just sheer hard work, determination, and my coach properly being able to know how to peak bodybuilders. Yeah.
What was your why that was bringing you through this journey, since it did go or maybe look differently than you guys had expected?
Oh, well, yes, it did. My why. So I had written about it last year, kind of around the competition, around my daughter's birthday. So I use her as motivation, obviously the generic, being a good role model, etc., going after your dreams, yada yada. But she was born with a congenital eye condition, and it's one that she's had to really overcome vision is so much more complicated than I thought. That's my next degree. It's going to be in ophthalmology.
I don't doubt that.
Developmental because I have studied that. That is what kept me up, late nights the first years of her life. She did have a surgery, an eye surgery, when she was 11 months old. And so vision therapy has been a part of her life, especially now that she's older and able to do more of those activities. So it was just what's considered a successful surgery. She's kind of in that 1% that it was successful. She's kind of in the 1% of the optimal outcomes. I attribute that partially to just being blessed, but also to my obsession with it. I totally engrossed myself in what is she seeing? What can we do? Let's attack this from every angle. Let's go, as far extreme as, the surgery option to the therapeutic option to, energy healing. I don't care. Yeah. Water from France. So we did pretty much everything. And now it's just a part of her day. A lot of it's keeping up with her eyeglass prescription, which eventually she'll hopefully be able to get contacts. But we incorporate vision therapy activities at home. We do bouts of it in office. But these are just struggles that she wouldn't even call struggles. It's just something that requires extra effort that other kids just don't. Every kid has their thing, I'm sure. But watching her and her positive attitude and just have this, sometimes invisible, sometimes not. I guess it would be categorized as a disability that she has to overcome. And she not only just does it with such grace, but she works hard at it every single day. And I think that's why she's so successful too. She's only 6. Oh, wow. But I know what's in her, and having something that you have to really work hard at and, make sacrifices for that other people may not. And just, the stronger I am, the more strength I know is inside of her, which she's going to need one day in this wonderful world that we live in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that the fact that she's overcome and faced these adversities with such a positive attitude is so cool, and probably just amazing for you to see as a parent.
Yes, she is loud and proud. Very, very, very confident girl. Her glasses, they do glow in the dark.
Wow.
If they could glow there, yes, she actually has a pair that glows in the dark. But the more bright and colorful could possibly be, that is her personality, and that is really her outlook on life. And gosh, am I doing my best to really keep it that way?
I'm sure you are. I think it's amazing. Like, there are kids who would probably be shunned or judged by their own parents or family for having to wear glasses or having to go through these different things. And yet you guys have been able to foster probably that attitude for her to embrace it rather than to run from it or be upset or shameful about it.
Yes. And now it's starting, if other kids notice, we teach her kind of the responses to give, and she's going to know early on. Every kid has their thing. Everyone has their challenges that we don't see going on, that they're doing behind the scenes, extra adversity that they're needing to overcome just to be there with the group, right?
So true. Yeah. And that's such a nice perspective to learn early on, like that everyone is going through something.
Yes. And so I don't know if I had discovered Ashley Kaltwasser had the same surgery. And I don't know if it was during bodybuilding, before bodybuilding, but I would Google her condition, my daughter's condition, and successful females. And I think like I said, I don't know the order of things. It all kind of blurs together. But at the time when she was very, very young, I was wondering, does this mean that there was going to be other things? Could she be successful? And, sure enough, there's plenty of people in the world that have this and are very successful as athletes and other things.
Yes, absolutely. It is amazing. Like there are so many people, not just within bodybuilding, but females in general who have accomplished and overcome so much. And it's cool to be able to show her that, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes. And we've really enjoyed the people that we've met in the bodybuilding community. It's quite refreshing. I think everyone's that I've encountered, it feels very authentic, and it's just amazing to connect with people that are so different from you, that have such similar interests, similar goals, but could have completely different, backgrounds, different reasons for doing things, live in different areas, a whole different approach to it. But there are some very deep commonalities that, I'm finding as it tends to draw people, that are have been in the military or law enforcement. So a lot of those kind of deep rivers are, creating a community of people with kind of similar values during this turbulent time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it is interesting the type of people that bodybuilding can attract. I think sometimes it can be a magnet to people who maybe don't need to turn to physical things to help their internal struggles. And I was hoping with your insight and background, if you could share some of the pros and cons of bodybuilding that you can see, or maybe some of the dangers as well as benefits.
In general?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've seen, as I've heard girls talk, I think starting at an older age myself, I'm at a lot less of a risk. I probably see it through rose-colored glasses, because you have to remember I grew up, I was a teen in the 90s. We had Kate Moss, heroin chic was a look we tried to mimic. The closest to emaciation you could get, that was what was considered attractive. So to see the human body and the musculature being celebrated is fantastic to me. It is so refreshing, because it is quite the opposite of what I grew up with, but yet well, I mean, I guess it's my husband's opinion, but he says he finds it more attractive too. And,
Sure.
So I like that image. I think there's a lot more diversity allowed with having the physiques that are athletic. I mean, there's different divisions for different body types. There's a lot more of a range of weight. But then I could see how people could overthink it. Perhaps that's why I like meal plans, right? I think counting and weighing, you could drive yourself crazy. And if you let it consume yourself too much. Some of the downsides, I could see people putting too much of their self-value on a placing at a show, right? When this is a very subjective sport. So those are just some off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that.
But I love, I thought I knew a lot about nutrition, but I've learned so much more through doing this, and supplementation, and, how just timing and sleep and hormones and the endocrine system, I mean, it goes on and on. I think the more you can get as nerdy science as you want, and if you really want to understand it, it's really cool.
Yes, so true. It's such a great way, like you said earlier, to connect with our bodies. And athletes tend to have a greater connection to their bodies because, they're so focused on how every bit of food or movement impacts the way that they feel, because we need to be able to perform. So I think it is such an amazing blessing. And it's great that we get to do this. And obviously, you have had an accelerated journey to becoming a pro. And I'm wondering, what exactly do you want to accomplish as a pro? And are you going to compete only in master shows, open shows?
The plan as of now, I'm coming open. So,
nice.
So, but I definitely, I would like to do a mix, assuming I can devote as much time as I plan to this coming year. Depending on timing and location of the shows, I definitely want to do multiple, and I would definitely want to do a mix. So, set the goals really high, as high as you can, right? So that's the only way to get to Olympia is open.
Yes, this is true. Yeah. I think it would be awesome for you to get to the Olympia. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it would be awesome for that's like the dream, right?
Right, of course.
What was your feedback after your last show?
My feedback was love the overall look, and to really just grow, widen like upper body. So most bikini training programs, I don't think incorporate chest, right? So a lot like broaden the chest and shoulders to balance out the lower half. And then really the lower half, I think as far as muscle maturity, I think I just, this wasn't feedback I got, but I'm going to give it to myself. I just need more muscle maturity because I don't think I could. I think my lower body was a little bit behind, given that I didn't have access to the gym equipment during my early phases, right? So it has to catch up. But I guarantee you, it's caught up.
That's awesome.
And really feeling tighten it all up, and see what we get.
Yep. Amazing. That's so exciting. I thought. I mean, I looked at all your stuff on NPC News Online, and you definitely like killed it. And it's just really cool. I'm excited to see what you bring next year.
Thank you. Me too.
Yes, of course. And it does seem like a bunch of girls are starting to incorporate more chest training. I think a bunch of judges have probably noticed that we've been so focused on shoulders and glutes. They're like, maybe we need to balance this out just a little.
Kind of wide, I love working back, so
yes,
not a problem widening back. And then I am one that stuffs my bikini a lot, so I had, in regards to breast augmentation, I can speak on this if it helps anyone, because I know I was really helped by it, because at the beginning I was discouraged. So growing up, I was very well endowed in the chest area, beautiful. And after childbirth, that was gone.
Wow.
It's completely gone. It's my mother's side of the family. It happens. So, it flashed through my mind augmentation, but ultimately I decided it was not a time with a young child. And I just, quite frankly, could not, with the type that I would need, because I did have breast before, I just could not take that much time off of the gym. I would go crazy. So I got a lot of tips from the pros that were very helpful. These girls are so nice, would actually message back with tips on, creating the illusion in the bikini. And so, yeah, so on stage, I look like my high school self.
Yeah.
Up there.
Stuff the crap out of that top.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of us who don't have implants can relate to, is just trying to make every part of the physique look balanced, and also not having anything overpower something else.
Right.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us your best advice for girls who have never competed before but want to, and then your best advice for women on the road to pro.
Okay, so for those that have never competed before or about to do their first competition, I think really just committing to it completely takes away any of the ambivalence in your brain, right? So that makes it a little bit easier. I had a fantastic first coach. She's really amazing. And she very much taught us to keep it very classy and keep it about the sport itself. This is a physique competition. You don't get fancy, master your front pose, your transition pose, your back pose, right? These routines some of the amateurs come out with, right?
Yeah.
You don't get a routine. You master the basics first. Keep it simple. Judges are not looking for cool personality. No, you don't want anything to distract from your physique. It may seem boring. You may say, well, I want a pink streak in my hair, or something. If you don't have one, like it's not a costume, right? So to just keep it simple and to keep it about the sport itself, and then how to conduct yourself outside of competition, as far as anything from a photo shoot to just really keeping it classy. If you're going to act like a professional, behave like one all the time, and less is more, and keep it about the sport itself, I would say.
Beautiful advice.
Yes. And then for those that want to go pro, let's see. I think I would say just to put the work in. I mean, that sounds generic. That's not a good answer. But
I mean, it's true.
It really is just about commitment. Like there wasn't in my mind another option. Like it was just happening. I was just winning. And if you do everything as planned and execute as you should, it's just what's going to happen. So, really keeping focus, and making sacrifice and trusting in the process, and knowing and trusting that your time will come when it's ready to. Maybe timing, that's a good option, because I've seen some fantastic competitors along the way that have placed, very, very well. And it's just hadn't been their time yet. But the amount of resilience and patience they have is truly admirable. So, as I've especially learned over the past couple of years, things are happening for a reason, and they happen at a time when they're supposed to. And, not a person in the world, not a soul in the world can take away something that's meant for you.
Love that. I love that. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish that I would have?
I can't say so. No. We covered a lot. I guess I would like to speak on one more benefit.
Yeah.
In terms of setting boundaries. So I found bodybuilding to have a lot of, have you learned about secondary gains?
No.
So when someone, let's say they have depression or something, and they're gaining something from it, and it's a terrible thing to say, right? Because no one wants to be depressed, right? But you always look for what are some secondary gains that are going on with them. And so maybe it's perhaps they're getting some extra rest that they couldn't get, or maybe they're getting attention from a certain family member that they've never gotten before, right? So I found that bodybuilding itself had a lot of secondary gains for me in my life. And we kind of alluded to that earlier in our conversation about boundary setting, but also in maintaining the healthy lifestyle that I kind of always wanted to maintain, so that it wasn't off-putting to other people. But now it's actual, it's a reason. Well, I'm choosing to eat this way, or I'm choosing to go to bed this early, things like that. So I think that's another reason why I love it so much.
I love that. And I have never heard that term to describe it. I've always just asked people like the benefit to their problems, really,
Yeah.
because there is usually a benefit to the
Oh,
problems.
right. No, it does. Like, it has solved some problems for me.
Yeah,
I may be in a total career crisis right now if it wasn't for bodybuilding. I would
right.
be, searching for, how to scrap together a virtual practice or um, things like that. So yeah, there's been a lot of gains. No, but when I look at someone clinically, if you look at their disorder as a symptom that used to work in their favor and work very well, and now it no longer serves them, you'll see their disorder completely differently. So,
Absolutely. Like
yes,
it's a way of coping rather than,
right. It's
yes.
an old coping mechanism that worked and now it's not working, but it's a habit, or it's a pattern, and now we need to change it. And a lot of times the resistance to changing it is because that habit has been set in place, has these secondary gains that we don't know about. So if you can replace those for someone, with the family member example, reestablishing a relationship with that person, then you can get rid of the symptom that's not serving you.
Absolutely. I love that. And I find that that's especially true with eating disorders.
Mhm.
There's so many benefits that can come from it that obviously are difficult to let go of. And with any disorder, really the person has to then choose to find maybe, like you said, those secondary gains elsewhere and have it fulfilled rather than using the disorder or pattern to get that.
Yes, yes, especially in relationships. Um, right. And, it becomes like bodybuilding becomes a part of our identity, right? As competitors,
Mhm.
disorders can become a part of people's identities as well. And you would think it would be a relief to let go of that, but for some people, it's difficult. So,
Yes, it's
for the
such a
competitors that don't
process.
compete anymore, I'm sure there's a whole grieving process that goes along with it.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to even think about letting something go that you love or that serves you. It is difficult. I felt that way when I quit volleyball. It
yeah,
was such a grieving experience. It was so hard, and yet it led me down the path that I really wanted to be on ultimately. And so whatever we're clinging to, it's okay to know that once you let it go, other opportunities will come up and you don't have to be stuck with that forever. And I would really encourage anyone, if you are labeling yourself in any way, like really evaluate where those labels are coming from and why you're so committed to that label, whether it's positive or negative. Just understanding that every label that you've given yourself is an identity that's influencing the behaviors you have each day.
yes, yes. And I think I'm going through that right now. I mean, with this move that I never thought would happen, it's almost like forcing giving up parts of myself, and stripping away, both literally, like as I see my house being packed up or my practice dwindling away, um, things closing that I never expected. It's almost like what are you left with? And that is the core really of who you are. And there's not, some labels come and go. Um, so yeah, but
Yeah.
athlete is something you can always have.
Yes. And luckily, there's so many ways to be an athlete, and it doesn't have to look a particular way, which
Right.
is awesome. And like what you're going through right now is like, it's always hard to let go of also what you thought would be, not just what is, but like, oh, I always thought it'd be this way, or thought I'd do this here, or,
Right. I
it is
know. I
hard.
thought we would have high school homecomings in this
Yeah.
house. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think my grieving, I think that's what kept me motivated too. My grief really manifested as anger last year.
Mm.
Very, very angry. But more and more I realized that was just my grief. Um, and we had other losses too. Like we lost both our cat and our dog that year.
Mm.
But just other things like that. but grieving a life that I thought we had created here that now didn't have a future and we'd have to scrap it and start over. But the one thing that has been consistent that I don't have to scrap and start over is bodybuilding. So this is really keeping me anchored as an individual.
Love that.
Family, because it's not changing, it's me. It's my degree is one thing, and I'll always have that, always have my knowledge, right? So that I have, and then now this I have that's very mobile. I can move it.
Exactly. Yes. It's like what you said at the very beginning, like routine is so important.
Yes. So it's
so
just a chapter.
I want everybody to be able to connect with you and continue to have this conversation. So where can they find you, connect with you, work with you, all that jazz?
So my professional website is psychologist.co. And yes, it's a .co. Someone convinced me that would be the next big thing. Now that did not happen.
I got convinced that .fit would be the next big thing, and I don't even do fitness coaching anymore. So it's okay. I understand.
But now it's just too late to change it. I have the domain and it was expensive. So that's my professional. And then Instagram, I'm getting better. I'm terrible, but it's Dr. Dr. _Jaqueline, JACQUELINE _Duke, DUKE _IFBB. I was recently convinced to add the IFBB on my Instagram.
I like it.
And start actually posting, because as the opposite of some of the people we talked about with social media, I'm very extroverted in person, and I am so shy on social.
Yeah.
I hardly ever post. I used to only post my daughter. So I have some beautiful photos that I'm being encouraged to get out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hope that you do, because you have so much value to add. Like just this conversation alone, I'm sure people are going to be wanting to hear so much more from you.
I hope so. I'm so glad we connected.
Me too. Thank you so much for your time. Seriously, I'm going to put all your links and the information in the show notes page. You guys, that's always at celestial.fit/podcast. And you can go back and click on certain timestamps too. Like I know if you listen to this on YouTube, usually they're clickable timestamps, which is pretty cool. But definitely you guys, thank you for listening and tuning in. If you can, leave a rating, a review, share with a friend. It always means a lot, and tag us as you listen, because it goes a long way for me and the athletes as well. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this podcast. Just make it awesome.